So we had a hand I played at Maryland Live 2-5. I'm usually a 1-3 or tournament player, so the stakes is a little bit higher than I usually play.
It's a 1,000 max buy-in game. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay.
1K cap.
Yep.
Early position opens at 25. The button calls. I'm in the small blind with Queen of Spades, Queen of Diamonds.
Queen of Spades, Queen of Diamonds. Okay.
This is a pretty easy 3 bet, so I 3 bet to 125. I'm not sure about if I could make it larger since we're pretty deep, around 400, 500 effective. If I can make it like 150 or 200.
I think as long as you go to 125, it's probably pretty good in this particular spot. Again, on paper, this would look like it's actually deeper than it really is, but you can see that the 5x open size really cuts the effective stacks down, and especially in a 3-bet scenario like this. So even looking at this like it's 200 big blinds, it's way different when people go 2.5x call than say 5x call. But I think 4x plus the limper is at least the amount that you should go to here. So you make it 125. Okay.
Right, and the original razor calls and the button folds.
So in this is like I'm just putting them as EP calls and the button folds. So it's probably like maybe what 300, right? 275, something like that. 280.
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Okay.
So the flop comes really, really dry. It's 3-2-9 rainbow.
9 deuce 3 rainbow. Okay.
I feel like this spot I would be betting pretty frequently, even with my ace kings here. So I decided to do it with like a small sizing. So I decided to bet 80, which is around a third of the pot.
I think you're probably allowed to go larger here if you're really trying to play it. If the EP doesn't have deuces or threes here, I mean he's gonna have nines, so it's one of these ones where maybe you can't go balls to the wall. With that being said, if you do squeeze nines in this spot, then you actually have more range and nut advantage than this guy does. Neither player having deuces or threes. I don't know if you would squeeze nines here, but it's something to note.
I think probably for myself, I would not be squeezing knives in that position. But I don't know if that's a mistake or not.
It's probably on the. I mean, it's kind of on the cusp, right? I mean, it is a very tight sort of. I could see overcalling here, and maybe the bottom might be tens. Simplifying going 1/3 is usually going to be, okay, but the board is just not, it's not really all that connected. I just try to get as much value as possible. But okay, so you bet 80.
Early position surprisingly raises to 300, which didn't really make much sense to me.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this question: what do you think is his value hand here? What are his value hands?
He would be raising with his sets sometimes just to try to fast play it and get more money in. But like you said earlier, 3 bet pots probably can get the money in a little bit later. I have kind of a hard time finding bluffs, maybe as like the ace wheel suited combinations.
Oh,
Um, and then tens, jacks, maybe aces and kings here as well.
well, so when you take a very sort of small sizing, and I was actually taking a look at this because there was a hand that Brad Owen played on that last live stream game that the Lodge did where he opened with king 10 of clubs and defended to a 3-bet, and the guy ended up having ace king. It was like the neediest player like in the world. I think the board came out like, I think he came out raggy, but he had like a backdoor. I don't know if it was like queen 5-4 with one club or something like that, and he had king queen, and he raised this small bet. And I went to content contributor Squish My Tomato Mark Goon, who's been streaming now on Twitch, by the way, high stakes games from Ignition, because he's been in the solver weeds. And I was like, wow, when is this reflected? And Mark had said that, yeah, I mean, you can definitely, you can definitely raise in position. You're allowed to in optimal in a given situation where someone bets really small, and he was talking about doing it with some protection with middle-ish types of pairs. That was on that board, or a hand like with a backdoor or something like that. So you bet so small that, the theory goes that actually your opponent can raise some hands in a given spot. But you said sets. Now, if I was your opponent at this stacked up, I really do think that raising with pocket nines here would be quite bad. And I'm all for fast playing, but this is as dynamic as it gets, right? Why do I want to not give you the opportunity for you to bluff, some of your ace highs if you were squeezing with wheel draws, things like that? Because, this is just a dream sort of three barrel type of board. So, I mean, I am all for fast playing, but boy, there's not a whole lot that's going to come out that's going to kill the action here. But besides sets, what else could he raise here to that for value?
I said earlier, over pairs, maybe like ace nine, probably not. Uh,
It would be I would bet that probably some 9x gets to be raised here with a backdoor for some protection against your sizing. Again, we don't really see a reflection of that, just thinking about the theory. But in terms of a live exploit, what I was going to say is that you made your 3-bet pretty large. There is a guy behind you. I don't know what the history was with that guy on the button, but I'll tell you a little live hack here that this guy could have aces. He could have aces or kings. What's interesting about that, though, which is kind of sort of counterintuitive, and when I'm saying that 9-9 would be a bad raise, like if I somehow flatted with aces against you, like I thought the guy behind me was just irrelevant, or maybe we were heads up and I was going to play a trappy. There's really no reason to raise aces or kings here either, because it's such a dynamic board too. It's a great hand just to basically call down. But I have seen guys trap with overpairs here. In a given spot, but I don't think that you can just say, "Oh, I'm going to, consider folding," because it is because of your small sizing, really. So, I mean, I think continuing on here is somewhat standard. He makes it 300, so you got about 1.3 left, and the pot will be what, like just under 900, right? Something like
right.
that. Okay.
I decided to call, but I was wondering if I should have a 3-bet here.
Bet 3-bet with queens. I mean, you will sometimes see it, and normally what you see it in a slightly shallower SPRs, and you see it more with hands that cannot allow free cards. So you do it more with queens than you would do it with aces. Again, my concern here is that you might just be getting coolered or just kind of trapped with other overpairs in a given situation. But again, that's what I remember from the theory. It's a very unorthodox, definitely hand, but from the protection part of it. But I think you're too deep though to do that. I would still probably just call across here.
Okay, that makes sense.
So 880, right?
You're 888. On
Okay.
the turn, the 8 of clubs, which brings in the backdoor club draw.
So the turn is the 8 of clubs. Do you remember the suits on the flop?
Um, Club, diamond, heart.
Like
Not
where?
exactly sure
Okay.
which one was the club.
Well, okay. Well, that makes a slight difference. Okay, so you got about 1,300 back. So the pot's it's about 1.5 SPR here. Okay.
All right, so I check, which I think is pretty standard.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'm not never leading here.
Yeah.
The razor bets 500, which is also just kind of a really weird sizing.
Well, he bets 500 here. So you guys having about 1,300 back. If you were to call, the pot would be around 1,900, and you'd have like 800 left if you have 1,300 back now. So I don't really find it that weird, the sizing. Like if I was thinking about shaping like to an all in, I would be like, oh, what, I'm going to leave a half pot size bet left here.
Okay, that makes sense.
This is interesting though with your response on the turn here with these stack sizes. If you start with 13 on the turn, I'm just going to say the pot's 9, even though it's 880, because just to make it a little bit easier for the math. Because again, like if he bets 5 and you call, it's like 19 and you've got 8 left. So you have about a half pot size bet left. If you were shallower, if you were at like 1/3, it's a situation where I think it's an easy just check raise all in or fold. Here, it's very, very, I mean, you're just getting it to get it in for the most part, right? Or fold. Here, with about a half pot size bet left, just under, it's very close. There's a lot of conflicting things going on here because it would just suck because, if he were to hit some sort of random overcard in a given situation. Now, are you familiar with the sort of term Fifth Street Chicken from Crush Live Poker here at all?
Yeah, I was able to look it up. I know you mentioned it
Oh,
in your email.
yeah. Okay. So, Fifth Street Chicken would say, hey, like, I'm going to call here and I've got enough stack depth with like 40, 50% of the pot left where, if the river comes out and doesn't really change anything and he just moves all in, the fact that he's bet again here might just make me fold. And again, that is, I think it's one of the most sort of misconstrued concepts in no limit poker, no limit big bet, any type of big bet poker where, oh, you can't call the turn and then fold the river when nothing changes. Well, the change is the fact that the guy bet himself. And I always go back to the example that I'll use. And the only time this game is really ever played is usually at the World Series, but it used to be played high stakes, which is no limit single draw deuce to seven. It really is the Cadillac of no limit poker. And it's a game where there's so little information besides betting that you will commonly see guys. This is one round of betting. If you can try to think about no limit hold'em, like where it was just pre-flop and then one bet. Maybe they ran all 5 cards out or something, and then it was just one bet. Okay, caller, kind of picture that, right? In no limit deuce, like you'll have a guy raise from up front with like a medium to strong hand. Somebody will call in position. The guy in position will draw one after the guy from up front pats. And then the guy from up front will check. And if this guy bets, he might fold. The guy from up front might fold just because of the betting. So I tend to want to call here, although I am a little bit conflicted with some properties of, protection or something like that. But more often than not, in a spot like this, if I was in this game, I would probably do a lot of calling here.
Agreed. I think kind of playing the hand back, I did prefer a call, but in this incident, I ended up going all in for the remainder of my stack for 1.3K.
And I don't think it's terrible. I just think that you can use some extra information by calling. And then again, to play devil's advocate with myself, you sometimes will put yourself in a negative free roll where if you call, if your opponent's not going to bluff, then you're just giving him a free shot at whatever equity that he has that you could just get him off the equity. But if you play it that way, you don't have the chance to check fold on a brick, though. Like if we are saying, if we're playing a logic game, like in philosophy, like philosophy 101, like if then problems, and we say that, I'm going to call, and then if bet comes at the end on like a disconnected card, I'm going to fold, then you leave more options open in your particular hand because you save the last bit of your stack when it can just go check and you can win. So it's like multiple if then types of situations. I don't know if you ever took philosophy, caller.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to do programming, so that makes sense.
Conditional philosophy, I think it's called. Okay, so you jam.
I jammed the hero or the villain folded.
He folded. Okay.
Yeah, he folded. So I thought in my mind I couldn't like his bluffs would kind of just call it off to like if he had a flush draw, he'd probably call. If he had the straight draw, he probably called. So I was kind of
Well,
surprised
there's
that he just
something
folded.
kind of bizarre going on here from your villain because I don't think he's structuring correctly. Because let's say that he gets to raise a wide range for protection and bluffs versus your very small c-bet sizing on this board. He can't always continue on the turn, right? So again, this is how hand reading goes back to if then conditional, right? Like it's like, okay, he gets to raise some of the time to your small sizing. But when you call the $300 raise, then that narrows your range down a ton, right? So because you're going to fold out a lot of your air, like if you had king queen or something, or even ace king or whatever, you're going to so when you call his raise, you're left with a fairly sort of strong range. This is why he has to structure correctly on the turn, where he's only continuing with cards that improve his equity. If that's the case, especially a non-over card too, if that's the case, he's getting an incredible, almost a very incredible price on the jam, right? I mean, you're jamming for what, 800 more, so it's like 26 8 to call, right? Something like that.
Yeah, it's basically like a min raise.
I mean, something's amiss. Did you ever find out what he had?
He told me after the session that he just had Jack high, so he was trying to pull one on me.
Jack high, actually, if it's legit, should pick up equity on the turn. Jack 10 is open ended. I mean, I
Right, so
guess
I'm pretty sure he didn't
if
have
he
Jack
didn't
10.
have a backdoor flush draw, he'd only be getting 3-1 with one card to come, so he wouldn't quite have the equity, I guess. And this is what I was talking about too. Let's say he did have Jack 10 and he bet folded, or like Queen Jack. Then this is where it gets hairy. Where if he's not going to fire the river bet, you're giving him a free look. But if he's not going to fire the river bet, then you win. And when he does fire, he has it. You save the money in your stack. Do you see what I'm saying? At the
Yeah.
end. But I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Bart.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.